The year is over, and it's now time to talk about the games we enjoyed the most this year. Personally, I don't usually play a lot of new releases each year because games aren't fucking cheap. In 2018, I only played 3 games that were released that year, although those 3 games were God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead 2, so I picked them well. This year, I've played a few more games than 3 thanks to Game Pass, which is a godsend for gamers on a budget like myself. There are a few games that I genuinely want to play that were released this year, but I haven't, so my list might have looked different if I had played them. With all that being said, out of the handful of games I have played this year, these are my 5 favorite. Number 5. Gears of War 5. I love the Gears of War franchise. I've played every game and love almost all of them, but to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with Gears 4. To me, it felt like the whole game was just an extended prologue for the next game, as not much actually happened in it, which is a complaint that can't be leveled at Gears 5. Now, I've never been a big fan of Horde mode in any game really, except for maybe Nazi zombies, so I haven't played Horde mode in Gears 5. I also haven't played the new Escape mode either because it doesn't really interest me. I have, however, played some of the multiplayer, which I've always had a bit of a soft spot for. And while I definitely enjoy it, there are some problems like the terrible microtransactions bullshit and the nerfed progression. The real reason that Gears 5 makes it onto my list is because of the single player. The Coalition made the smart decision to change the protagonist of this game to Kate, as I think that she is much more interesting than JD. At least she was until they decided to actually make JD interesting, and then switched to Kate right after it happened. Whatever, her story is still pretty interesting. Gears 5 mixed it up a bit with the formula by adding large open areas to explore, and while I don't feel like they necessarily improved the gameplay, it definitely was a nice change of pace. Gears 5 is one of the best action games of the year, and if you own an Xbox One, you should definitely give it a try, especially since it's on Game Pass. Number 4. Apex Legends. I am not a big multiplayer gamer. I primarily play single player only games and have only dipped my toes into various multiplayer aspects of certain games. It just wasn't something that appealed to me very much. That is until I started playing Apex Legends. This game kinda single-handedly got me legitimately interested in multiplayer gaming this year. Don't get me wrong, I still prefer and will always prefer single player games, but I regularly play Apex now, at least once or twice a week, which is something I've never done before with a multiplayer game. I've spent so many hours playing and having a blast with friends in this game, it might actually be the most fun I've had with the game this year. Not the most engaged I've been with the game, but there's been multiple times where me and my friends would be unable to stop laughing because we were enjoying ourselves so much. Respawn is basically EA's golden goose now with Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and I hope to God that EA doesn't ruin this developer like they've done to so many others. Rest in peace, Visceral. Number 3. Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game was originally not gonna be on my list because I didn't have a Switch until like 2 weeks ago. I actually had finished this video and was gonna put it up a while ago, but thanks to some of that Christmas money, I finally got a Switch on Boxing Day, which is actually my first Nintendo home console and something I've been wanting to get for a while now. I'm also a very recent convert to the Fire Emblem series, as I only began playing it a few months ago on my phone with Fire Emblem Heroes. I really enjoyed it and decided to buy Fire Emblem Awakening for my 3DS, which I fucking loved. And so when it came to deciding which game I would like to play for my first Switch game, the choice was obvious to me. And what a damn good choice it was, as this game is fantastic. Like I said earlier, this video was finished and ready to go up, but once I had made the decision to buy a Switch, I decided to wait until I started playing this game to see if it would end up on my list, which it has. The strategy element to it is fantastic and has a ton of layers to it. The school aspect, or the waifu simulator if you would prefer, is awesome, and the game has different branching story paths that really change how the game unfolds. There are a few issues I have with the game that hold it back from getting higher on this list, but it still takes home the bronze. I cannot wait to experience more of the Fire Emblem franchise, but for now, I'm gonna have to stick to the 3DS games I haven't played yet, as this is the only true Fire Emblem experience on the Switch. Although I do plan on picking up Fire Emblem Warriors, don't you worry about that. Number 2. The Outer Worlds. I love RPGs and I love the Fallout series, and hate what Bethesda has now turned it into. Seems like Obsidian agrees with me, as The Outer Worlds is the best Bethesda game since Fallout New Vegas, which was also developed by Obsidian. The Outer Worlds is a sort of cowboy space adventure RPG with a bleakly hilarious capitalist dystopian world to explore. This game is the funniest game I've played in a long time. One of my favorite lines was just a quick little line that Pavardi said while we were exploring outside Edgewater. She said that she had been fined for illegal terraforming when she was a kid because she was skipping rocks in a small stream. It's so fucked up yet believable in a world controlled by corporations. I spent 11 hours in a single play session playing The Outer Worlds, and for some of you hardcore gamers that might not seem like a lot, but I've never played a game for that long at one time. I seriously thought for a while that The Outer Worlds was going to be my game of the year. Alas, there are a few nitpicks with the game that added up over time that kind of took a little bit away from the experience. But when you take into consideration that Obsidian has said that they didn't have their full team working on this with a big budget, and that this was more of an experiment than anything, it's damn impressive what they managed to pull off here. Particularly the stability of the game, as I had no crashes and only one minor audio glitch the entire game. That's astounding. Now that Obsidian is owned by Microsoft, I'm really hoping that Microsoft sees the value of this IP and pours some of that Microsoft money into the development of a sequel. Because if they do, well, who knows? It might actually get to number 1 on my list next time. Number 1. Resident Evil 2. I love horror games. I particularly love survival horror games, and I particularly love Resident Evil horror games. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what we got with Resident Evil 2. Capcom's been on a bit of a roll since the release of Resident Evil 7, with that game plus Monster Hunter World, Devil May Cry 5, and now RE2. It actually seems like Capcom gives a shit about making good games again after a few years of not so stellar releases. And thank God that they do, as Resident Evil 2 is one of the best games in the entire series. I've never actually played the original RE2, so I can't comment on how faithful this game is to it. But what I can tell you is that this is my favorite game of the year. It's incredibly tense and atmospheric, the survival aspect to it is fantastic with carefully managing resources such as health items and ammo being the main concern. The game's flaws are so minuscule in the grand scheme of things that I won't even bother mentioning them here. Suffice to say, I loved this game, and with Resident Evil 3 being released in March, I won't need to wait much longer to get another dose of RE goodness. So those were my 5 favorite games of the year. Let me know in the comments what your favorite games of the year were, and thanks for watching.